Kristen, we're all set.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kristen Proud, the Vice Chair of New York Creates. I would like to welcome everyone to the meeting this afternoon. I will now do a roll call of the directors who are participating in our meeting today, starting with Mike Abbott.
Present.
Heather Hage. Heather, I think you're on mute. Heather Hage. Dr. Mengling Chow.
Present.
Thank you. And Joan McDonald.
Present.
Thank you. And let's loop back to Heather Hage and see if Heather can get off mute. I do see Heather. I just can't hear Heather.
Yeah, I don't think she can.
Heather, we're doing the roll call. If you can hear us, but you can't get off mute, is that right? Colleen, I don't know if there's something we can do, or Pat, to assist Heather to get off mute.
Yes, I will text her.
Thank you. All right, we do have Heather present and visible on our virtual meeting, so we'll work to provide, there she is. Oh, no, to provide technical assistance to get her off mute. I would also like to, at this time, recognize the advisory representatives designee. That's Ian Rosenblum. Ian is the designee of the Chancellor of the State University of New York. Also like to recognize the member representatives. We have Ryan Farrell, who is representing the Research Foundation of the State University of New York, joining us today, and Dr. Andrew Russell as well. Andy is the designee of the SUNY Poly Foundation. So thank you all for joining this afternoon. We have a number of officers as well who are participating in the meeting. So I'll introduce them, starting with David Anderson, Patricia Arciero Craig, Paul Kelly, Scott Bateman, Tim Taylor, and Pat Buckland are all on with us. I know we've seemed to have a little technical issue with a couple of people seeming to be stuck on mute or not able to hear. Heather, you can hear us now. Can you just state that you're present for the record?
Present. Can you hear me?
Yes, Heather, thanks so much. Andy, are you all good now? Excellent. Okay, so I think we're all straightened out now, and so we're ready to roll. So thanks everyone for your patience. At this time, I would ask that if you are on virtually, that you would mute your computer if you're not speaking, so we can minimize any background noise. Also, please identify yourself when you are speaking, and if you are making a motion or seconding a motion. And for the purposes of voting, we will call out each director's name for their vote so that it can be recorded accurately for the record. At this time, I would ask that if anyone has a conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on today's agenda, that you would make an appropriate disclosure on the record now. And then when we come to that item or items on the agenda, that you would recuse yourself from any discussion and from voting with regard to that item or to those items. So with that said, does anyone have a potential conflict to disclose? Okay, I see no one indicating that they have a potential conflict, so I think we're good there. The first item of business this afternoon is the approval of the minutes from our New York Creates meeting of December 14, 2023. Could I have a motion to consider and approve the minutes from the December 14 meeting, please?
So moved by Mengling.
Thank you very much. A second?
I'll second. Heather Hage.
Thanks, Heather. Does anyone have any comments or corrections for the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the vote, starting with Mike Abbott.
Aye.
Heather Hage.
Aye.
Dr. Mengling Chow.
Aye.
And Joan McDonald.
Aye.
Thank you. I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. We'll now move to the Finance Committee report, and as Chair of the Finance Committee, I will present the report today. The first item is an FRMC resolution. It's resolution number 192, as well as New York Creates resolution number 26. It is authorization for interim funding and a third notice to proceed for NanoFab reflection and related actions. So I would ask for a motion at this time to consider and adopt FRMC resolution number 192 and New York Creates resolution number 26, authorizing interim funding and a third notice to proceed for NanoFab reflection and related actions. Can I have a motion, please?
This is Joan. I give the motion.
Thank you, Joan. A second.
I'll second, Heather.
Thanks, Heather. So a little bit of background, and there was additional information in your packets. On August 1st, the New York Creates Board authorized an agreement with DPS Gilbane for the design and construction of NanoFab reflection, which will include a new 50,000 square foot clean room and related facilities on the Albany Nanotech campus. Thereafter, in September and October of 2023, respectively, the New York Creates Board authorized a first notice to proceed to the design build for $22 million for design work and a second notice to proceed for $5 million for long lead items. To provide interim funding pending receipt of grant funds from the state of New York, which are anticipated by mid-year, and to enable the project to stay on schedule, FRMC seeks to increase an existing line of credit with M&T Bank that was previously authorized by this board. The existing line of credit is for $15 million, and FRMC seeks an increase of $41 million for a total credit line of $56 million to accommodate proceeding with the project while the state funds are received. The $41 million increase would be available for 1 year through this line of credit expansion. FRMC also seeks to issue a third notice to proceed to the design builder in an amount not to exceed $41 million for certain construction-related activities necessary to maintain the established project construction schedule. The bank requires a guarantee from New York Creates for the $41 million increase in the line of credit. Because New York Creates will be the recipient of the state grant for the benefit of FRMC, New York Creates desires to provide such a guarantee to ensure that the project will stay on schedule pending the receipt of the state grant funding. The FRMC Finance Committee approved a resolution 1 approving and authorizing an increase in the line of credit with M&T Bank in the amount of $41 million for a total line of credit of $56 million on the terms stated in the memorandum that was provided to the committee in advance of its meeting. And 2, approving and authorizing the issuance of a third notice to proceed to the design builder in an amount not to exceed $41 million as set forth in the memorandum provided to the committee in advance of its meeting. And 3, providing the general authorization to the officers of New York Creates as stated in the memorandum provided to the Finance Committee in advance of its meeting. And finally, 4, recommending that the full New York Creates Board approve these same actions. So the New York Creates Finance Committee approved a resolution that authorized the New York Creates to provide a guarantee to the bank for an increase in the line of credit with the bank in the amount of $41 million for the total line of credit of $56 million on the terms stated in the memorandum provided to the committee, and providing the general authorization to the officers stated in that memorandum and recommending that the board approve those actions as well. So at this time, the requested action of the full New York Creates Board is the approval of FRMC Resolution number 192 and New York Creates Resolution number 26. At this time, I will pause and open the floor for questions, comments, or other discussion. I can tell you that the Finance Committee has had a robust discussion, or robust discussions, plural, I should say, about these resolutions. And does, as I said, recommend that the full board approve these two resolutions this afternoon in order that we can stay on track with the project construction timeline. As you can imagine, there are a lot of moving pieces involved in a construction project of this magnitude. And so I think trying to get off on time and stay on the construction timeline is particularly important. I don't see any hands. So if no one has any comments or questions, we'll move to the vote at this time. We'll start with Mike Abbott,
Aye.
Heather Hage,
Aye.
Dr. Mengling Hsiao,
Aye.
Joan McDonald.
Aye.
Thank you. And I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative. So the ayes have it and the motion is adopted. The next item on the Finance Committee report to the full board is New York Creates Resolution number 25. That is an agreement with Thorn Run Partners. Could I have a motion, please, to consider and adopt an agreement with Thorn Run Partners?
So moved by Mengling Xiao.
Thank you. A second?
It's Joan. I'll second.
Thank you, Joan. So the board previously authorized the hiring of Dr. Douglas Gross as an independent contractor to work with US-wide partners to structure and lay out the work necessary to compete for funding under the CHIPS for America Act. This involves completing a submission to the US federal government in response to a request for proposals for the National Semiconductor Technology Center and the National Advanced Manufacturing Program. As this work has progressed, New York Creates seeks to hire Thorn Run Partners, which is a Washington, D.C.-based government affairs firm, to provide consulting services to assist in securing CHIPS program grant funding. The consulting services include value proposition development, messaging and grant writing, reviewing, and editing to support solicitation responses to the federal CHIPS program solicitations of interest to New York Creates. Thorn Run is uniquely situated to serve in this critical role due to its significant semiconductor and CHIPS program expertise. Thorn Run Partners has been active on over 20 CHIPS proposals that cover leading-edge wafer fabrication, legacy and mature wafer fabrication, and semiconductor materials and equipment manufacturing facility build-outs. It also represents numerous semiconductor companies throughout the supply chain and has worked on numerous semiconductor-related federal grant solicitation responses for clients over the past 2 decades. In addition, Thorn Run worked for New York Creates affiliates as set forth in the memo that was provided to the board. This agreement with Thorn Run would remain active for an initial 6-month period with an option to extend the initial term for 2 additional 6-month periods upon mutual written consent of both parties on the terms set forth in the agreement. New York Creates would pay a retainer fee of $15,000 per month, as well as additional fees for pre-application and full application proposal development services for each individual federal pre-application and/or full application response to CHIPS for America solicitations, as set forth in the memo provided to the board in advance of this meeting. Given Thorn Run Partners' semiconductor technology proficiency, CHIPS program expertise, experience helping clients develop consortiums in these areas, New York Creates believes that this is a fair and reasonable agreement that will facilitate New York Creates' efforts to secure federal CHIPS funding, and that there is no reasonable alternative that would accomplish the intended purpose. The Finance Committee approved a resolution 1 approving and authorizing the corporation to enter into an agreement with Thorn Run Partners as an independent contractor on the terms stated in the memorandum provided to the Finance Committee in advance of its meeting, providing the general authorization to the officers of New York Creates as stated in the memorandum provided to the committee, and recommending that the full New York Creates board approve the same actions. So the requested action is approval of New York Creates Resolution number 25. I'll open it up to see if anyone has questions, comments. Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. Mike Abbott,
Aye.
Heather Hage,
Aye.
Dr. Mengling Xiao,
Aye.
Joan McDonald,
Aye.
and I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative. So the ayes have it and the motion is adopted. I would just like to add that I think that this is an incredibly exciting opportunity to compete for the federal CHIPS for America Act funds. And it could really be a great augmentation of initiatives that we already have underway at the state level. So I am optimistic that we will have some success here, especially with the assistance of a firm that has the depth and longevity of expertise that Thorn Run Partners has. That does conclude the Finance Committee report. At this time, I will open it up for any new business to be considered. If you have any new business, just please do so by advancing a motion. Okay, I don't hear any new business. I do, on a very sad note, I want to advise that one of our colleagues on the board, Anita Brown, passed away on December 19th. Anita had served as a director of New York Creates, FRMC, and FSMC since July of 2021. She was really a valued member of our board and a treasured colleague. We are grateful for her many contributions, not only to our work, but in the community where she lived in the Mohawk Valley. And our thoughts and prayers are with her husband, Peter, and with her entire family. At this time, I will open it up for any public comment. We would like to provide an opportunity for public comment. If there is anyone from the public who would like to comment, I would ask that you introduce yourself and keep your comments to 2 minutes. I'll give it a moment to see if we have any public comment. Don't think we have any public comment. The next item is the schedule of meetings. The date of our next meeting is still to be determined, as we always do. As soon as we have a date finalized, we will post it on our website. At this time, I'll ask one more time if there's any further business. Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved by Mengling Xiao.
Thank you. A second.
This is Joan. I second.
Thank you, Joan. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.